Here's our example. We're solving 2 cosine squared of t minus cosine minus 1 equals 0 for all solutions between 0 and 2 pi. Let me write that out for you down here. So it's 2 cosine squared t minus cosine t minus 1 equals 0. Okay. So how are we supposed to do this? Notice this is a little different. We have cosine squared and regular cosine. Just one kind of trig function. We don't have cosine and sine mixed in, just cosine, but we have cosine squared and regular cosine. Let's go to the notes. So looking at the notes here, back to number 1. When you have only one type of trig function, yeah, we just have cosine. Is it first power only? No, we have second power. Second power only? No, we have second power and first power, right? It's not like this where there's just second power. We have a second power and a first power. We don't have second power only. So coming down to C, first and second power. Yeah, that's what we have. Get it equal to 0. I think it already is equal to 0. Then factor with the parentheses, then set each part to 0. So for example, if you have this, you bring these guys over and you get it equal to 0. And then you factor with the parentheses and set each part equal to 0. Go to that, then the unit circle. All right, let's go to it. So it's already got a 0. So we'll say get it equal to 0 and factor, meaning with the two parentheses. Okay. Now I know that I've taught math a lot of years at this point, and I'm very familiar with the fact that a lot of people do not like factoring, including my own daughters. When I taught them pre-calculus a few years ago, several times said to me, Dad, we hate factoring, we hate factoring, we hate factoring. And I said, girls, if you want to go on in math, if you want to go to calculus, then you need to learn to factor. And so it is important. I know people don't like it. You can learn it. It just simply takes time. I mean, that's a lot of the reason why people don't like it. They haven't put in the time, but you can do it. You just have to practice. So let me just, I'll just go through it. I'm just going to do the guess and check method. There's other methods. It's all good, whatever method you want to do. I'm just going to do guess and check. So I'm just going to say, well, something here times something here, right? We're looking for four things, right? Something, the item here times here has to make this guy, right? They have to multiply. So they have to multiply to be this guy. So what times what? Well, I'm just going to go 2 cosine. I'm just going to use a C to save space and time here. 2 cosine times cosine. That'll be 2 cosine squared. So far, so good. Now, let's jump to the back. These guys have to multiply to be this guy. How can you multiply to be -1? Well, you could have a -1 and a +1. That'll multiply to be -1. Right. Okay, so is that the right answer then? So here's the kicker. Everybody can guess, but it's the check, and that just takes time, and you just have to do it. That's really it. If people always ask me and have trouble with the fact, I'm saying you just got to practice. Meaning, I'm going to check it now. What do I mean check it? I'm going to take this guy to both, first to both. And so what do I get? 2 cosine squared plus 2 cosine, right? I just took 2 cosine times this, 2 cosine squared, and times this. 2 cosine times 1 is just 2 cosine. He's done, and now this guy, bonk, bonk, will go to both. Minus cosine minus 1. And then what does that become? Combine the two middle. 2 cosine minus 1 cosine is plus 1 cosine minus 1. Is that match the original? Let me get rid of those arrows. Is that the same as the original? No. See, the middle should be -1, and I have +1. No. It's not the same. Something's wrong. Everything else is good. The -1 at the back, -1 at the back, 2 cosine squared in the front, 2 cosine squared in the front. But the middle and the middle are opposite signs. Opposite. So it's not working out. So what do you got to do? Try changing the signs. You think, well, they're already 1 minus 1 plus, right? But the order in which they sit is different. So let's go back. So you got to check again. This is why people hate this, but the more you do this, the more you multiply these things out, the faster you will get until you can see these in your head. That's it. That's what people do in higher calculus 1, 2, 3 and beyond. They just write these down because they've done a million of them, and they can just see this multiplication happening in their head. There it is. So plus there, and I'm going to make this one minus. I'm going to switch the signs. Try it again. So let's check it again. And you check again. So you go boom, boom. 2 cosine squared minus 2 cosine. He's done. Boom, boom. Plus 1 cosine minus 1. Combine the two middle. Minus 2 cosine plus 1 is minus 1 cosine. Check. That's the same as that, isn't it? It's right. It checks out. It's good. So that is the right factorization. Okay, let's go back to it. By the way, you could use the quadratic formula. If you just so much hate factoring here, you could do the quadratic formula where this is A is 2, B is minus 1, C is minus 1. Plug them in, you would get it. Let's go on there. So set equal to 0, step 2. Now, each one equals 0. Each one. So I'm going to take this one alone. 2 cosine t plus 1 equals 0. And this one, cosine t minus 1 equals 0. Each one. Now why? Why would each one? Why did we have 1, 0, and now we have 2? Well, it's because it's logical. They're multiplying, right? If one thing is multiplying, right? These are parentheses, means times. If two things are multiplying each other and the answer is coming out 0, what does that mean logically? How did two things times multiply and come out 0? The first one could be 0, or the second one could be 0, right? The first one could be 0, or the second one. If either one of those is 0, then they'll multiply, and the answer will be 0, won't it? So that makes sense. Okay, let's finish it up from here. Subtract 1 from both. Boom. So we get 2 cos t is minus 1. And divide by 2. Boom. And we get cosine t is minus a half. Other side, add 1 to both sides. Boom. Cosine t is 1. So we got some answers. Now, again, as I said, you could have done a factor, I'll say, or do the quad, you know, the negative b plus or minus the square root. Here, I'm running out of room. Let me put it down here. If you just hate with a passion, the quad. I really factoring. I think you really need to factor. If you want to go higher in math, as I told my daughters a few years ago, you need to learn how to factor. You can't do the quad all your life. It takes too long. But I'll help you out here if you're just like, I just can't do it, Ms. Taryn. There you go. You could also say, or you could do the quad, and that will give you these two answers as well. All right. Now we're not done. We're down to cosine. So now what do? Now we go to the unit circle, because minus a half's on the unit circle and positive 1's on the unit circle. So we're just going to go to the unit circle now and find out where's cosine minus a half, what t values, and where's cosine positive 1. So first off, let's go. Where's cosine minus a half? Here's my unit circle. Cosine minus half. This is cosine sine, cosine sine, cosine sine, cosine sine, cosine sine, cosine minus a half. There it is. 2 pi over 3. Let's keep going. So there's always two answers, right? Cosine sine, cosine sine, cosine sine, cosine sine, cosine sine, cosine sine. There it is. Cosine's minus a half. So boom. So 2 pi over 3 and 4 pi over 3. Cosine's minus a half. 2 pi over 3 and 4 pi over 3. So 2 pi over 3 and 4 pi over 3. Cosine's minus half. Where's cosine 1? Where's cosine 1? Right there. It's the only place. And so that is at 2 pi. Or 0. Actually, we don't say 2 pi. We say 0. 0 degrees. Cosine is 1 at 0 degrees. T equals 0. Why don't we say 2 pi? Well, they told us, see right here, they said go between up to 2 pi, but not equal to 2 pi, right? Equal to 0, but not equal to 2 pi. They don't want 2 pi's answer, they want 0. It's the same spot. But the reason they don't want both, do you see why they don't have equals here? Because that'd be the same spot twice. 0 and 2 pi are the same spot. So they're saying, look, if it comes to that spot, call it 0. So the answer is 0. So here's our answers then. 0, you can put them in any order. 2 pi over 3, 4 pi over 3. We got 3 answers on that one. There we go. So it was all about that, getting a 0 and factoring and then going to the unit.